Hey guys, it's Vince with Mastering the Method, and today I've got the machine control panel open in Simplify, and I'm working with the method right here. And I wanted to show you guys I'm working with ABS Rapid Rinse and the Rapid Rinse support, and today I'm going to do a combination print where I'm going to actually print a raft of Rapid Rinse and then work with the ABS Rapid Rinse filament as far as creating a fan bracket. But before I do, I wanted to discuss what I found so far working with these filaments. I don't know if this is just routine in the sense everybody's experiencing the same thing, but what I'm experiencing is that the set temperatures by Makerbot are far too high to perform properly. Now, inside of Simplify, you naturally can go in the machine control panel, and you can see here, I've got the experimental extruder and extruder 2XA running for support. And you can individually set your temperature to whatever you like for a single extruder and test it without actually purging it, meaning you can actually set the temperature, let it come up, and then decide if you want to purge it just to see how that extruder behaves. This is critical when you're doing trial and error to really dial in your temperature. So let me show you what happens if I use the stock temperatures, and I'm just hitting off on the experimental extruder and also on the chamber because I don't want to turn those on. And I want to set this, and you're going to see this LED over here start glowing bright red. You see it's starting to climb right now. You see that temperature going up. And I'm going to select Active Tool, Tool 1, because I want to be able to purge this second extruder, which under Makerbot's terms and under Simplify's terms, 0 is the experimental extruder and 1 signifies the support extruder. So right now, Joanna can film, right here we see our temperature going up on extruder 2, and we're up to 145 and climbing. And I'm going to purge this in a second after it actually hits the temperature to show you how much ooze we're going to get. And this filament does something else I'm going to highlight and show you guys that you can look for. Because believe me, it's going to save you a lot of filament if you take the time to do what I'm showing you here. We're almost there, we're climbing a little over 200. Now she can focus on the extruder, and you can see we're starting to get a little ooze. It's starting to happen. We're at 238, climbing still. Remember, I have not triggered the extruder to purge. It's holding position, and you can see that back pressure from the heat is creating a mass amount of ooze. You can see it coming out. Right now I'm holding a 256, which is correct. I'm at 255 and floating, 254, 255, and you can see the amount of ooze I'm getting. So I'm going to purge it now. I'm going to select 100% and watch what happens. It's going to run a full cycle. It's coming out, it's coming out. We'll let it go through a full purge, and then I'm going to cut it off, and we're going to see how long this extruder will run in terms of ooze. Off. Now she can shoot right here, and you'll see the extruder now is cooling off. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just separate this. Boom. And you can see, even if she comes in a little closer, you can see we still have ooze. So if you're doing a combination print, you're going to have problems because that's going to continue to ooze for some time. Then it can also dirty your nozzle, and that takes a long time to correct as well. So after playing with this for some time, you can see once we hit about 217, everything kind of slows down and stops. Okay? The interesting part about using Simplify, I'd say probably one of the most powerful features of this software, is that we can now do a real-world test, and I'm going to go to my set temperature, which I figured out was at 225. That's a huge difference, but I want to show you how it behaves. Right now we're cooling, we're at 195. I have my idle temperature set at 170. You can see we're no longer running, we're basically hanging stagnant. We have a slight little piece coming out. You can see right here, just a tiny, maybe a millimeter, teeny bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit set now, and I've set the temperature to 225. So watch what happens and watch how this filament behaves, as well as the extruder. Hitting it right now, we're coming up to temperature. Okay, I'm at 223. Extruder looks the same, right? Everything on the extruder looks right. I'm going to hit purge. Okay, did 100% purge. We're at 220. I want you to see how this filament behaves when it stops. We're doing a test similar to PVA, where we're looking for a clean break. When I go to separate this, I want to have a very clean break. I'm just doing 100% purge on Simplify. It will autonomously stop. And I'm going to, once again, I'm going to pull this, and it's still at the 224 degree temperature. Look at that. You have no run at all. And it's still holding 222. We have not signified another purge. So watch this. We have not triggered another purge, and it's still holding at 221. Doing it again. There we go. I'm going to turn it off the extruder as soon as it stops purging. Done. Extruder is off. It's cooling down now, so you can shoot it right here. And it will be going down. There it is at 219, 218, 217, and watch this. As soon as we pull this, complete clean separation. You have no ooze whatsoever. Now, you're probably asking, did I also experience this same ooze problem and over temperature setting with ABS? And I did. So let me show you what I set with ABS. Once again, I'm going to select off. ABS now, we'll come over to the experimental extruder. Here's the temperature that they recommend, 260. Okay? And we're going to select these off, and set. This is ABS now, we're climbing. Here we go. You can see our extruder slowly climbing, and we're cooling down on extruder 2. Now I can honestly say doing these tests are imperative for you to really dial in your temperature, and Simplify makes it super simple. I'm hoping to see features like this added to Cloud Print, because it will definitely let you dial in your temperatures much easier. You can see that extruder 2 is perfect. It's extremely clean, and we have no problem with, once again, going with the combination print. Many of you already realize the key to combination printing is assuring that you have no ooze on either nozzle, and you have to enable as many features as possible to make sure of that. If you do have ooze, the odds of you having a successful print is still possible, but naturally the more ooze you have, it's going to corrupt that print. And when you're doing prints like I'm doing that are made for resale, a non-perfect print I do not present to my clients. That's my own preference. I've seen, many people do different things, and you can see that ABS is at 248 now, and it's starting to ooze. And you can see that right there. Once again, I'm holding temperature. I'm not purging. I'm watching to see what kind of ooze pattern I have at 255, 256, and you can see we're still oozing. So now if I hit purge, I'm going to switch over to tool 0 because that's experimental, and I'm going to purge. Of course, it runs like water, and as soon as this stops, I will stop the extruder from heating, and then we'll reset it to the temperature I've set so we can prevent ooze. Once again, purging at 255. Even though the temperature said 260, temperature's going down now. We should see it dropping. 252. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just show you what happens. There it goes. It's still oozing. As that temperature is falling, it is still oozing. You can see it. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you what temperature I set and the performance you'll get once again. Come over here. I'll set this extruder to 235. And again, we'll select off on our extruder 2XA, and we'll select off on the heated chamber just to make sure nothing's engaged. I'm going to hit set. We're going to run this again. It's climbing right now. we'll hit this temperature, and once again we'll hold at this temperature, and I want to show you what you see in terms of ooze. Because the one thing you'll notice when you set your extruders this way, you'll find that your oozing pattern, when you're holding at a holding temperature, you should have that same pressure simulated as if you're printing and see the ooze. If you don't see ooze, you've pretty much nailed it. The question is then strength of the print, and I know that will come up also. And I can assure you, I've already printed with ABS at this temperature, and the strength is amazing. So, again, we'll see exactly what's going on. We're at 230, and you can see we're at 231 and holding, and look. You can look there at the nozzle, and it's doing nothing. Now I'm going to purge the nozzle. Done? And I'm going to let it go through, and you'll see exactly what I'm saying. We're purging right now at 231. Which is really set at 235. Once again, I usually have a 3 to 4 degree differential. I'm going to let it continue, and I'm going to pull this piece of filament off as it stops, but leave the temperature where it is to see if we have ooze. Similar to when it would stop printing and simulating, you know, naturally changing over. Okay, here we go. We're looking good, guys. Immaculate. Now let me show you. I'm going to purge again. Got a teeny drop forming, and we're going to go boom, right out. Now what I'm going to do is turn the extruder off once it's done purging, and then we can see if we have any ooze, because naturally you would not leave an extruder in a heated state without purging it. So we'll see what happens when we drop temperature. Done. Temperature is now off as far as the extruder. We'll be dropping. And we can see exactly what's going to happen here. We're at 221, dropping now, 219, 217. Let's see what happens. Take that camera, show you exactly what we got. We have immaculate, gentlemen. And that's exactly what we want right there. Question is like I said, is if your strength is going to be there, even though we've adjusted the temperature to the settings that we went, because they are far beneath what the manufacturer recommends. Well, we'll do a test now and see exactly what we get. Okay guys, I wanted to show you what the rapid rinse support should look like. When you purge that extruder, you should see and feel a perfectly smooth line of filament. Okay, this strand right here is perfect. If you overheat after it's been sitting in the chamber for a while and go to purge, you're going to find that you will get a very thick, rough piece of filament. And I'm sure she can see that. This is totally different than what we have here. And you can definitely see that. Pardon the fact that my lens is a little bit dirty, but you can definitely see this. So again, if you're purging this crap, you're going to have problems. You cannot purge this filament and use it this way. It becomes very brittle and it's very coarse. This is what you need when working with rapid rinse. Keep that in mind. Okay guys, I'm inside of Simplify, and you can see I've got the fan bracket now on the build plate. And one thing I want to point out, you can see that there are some light areas, and if we look close, those are 0.5 millimeter holes. Now why I did that is so that naturally it's much easier to print than to print all kinds of fill inside of there and try to get a perfectly symmetrical hole. I'll naturally just leave these to mark that area where I want to drill, and therefore it'll give me an alignment tool and I can get a perfect hole when it's all done. So now that you see exactly what we're working with, I'm going to go in real quick and show you how I set up all of the settings here. And you can see that when we come over to layer, I really haven't messed with anything here. First layer height is at 105%. First layer print speed is at 10%. Everything here is pretty much left alone. I am going with a layer height of 0.1 millimeter. And then as we come over to speeds, I know that's a question that comes up a lot. Default printing speed, I've already set mine at 2,500 millimeters a minute. Everybody's print speed is going to be different as your own preference. This really works really well. I feel that the printer really is optimized at that for what I'm doing. Again, looking at high-end user prints. So again, XY travel speed is at 3,700 millimeters a minute. And again, that's just rapid motion. Coming over here to additions, we are, of course, using a raft.
and I'll be printing that with the Extruder 2XA. That'll be all set, and above raft speed will be at 30%, which has not been manipulated. Everything there looks good. Temperature, again, experimental. First layer in Simplified does not auto adjust in terms of leaving the extruder in an idle position. Therefore, you must isolate the temperature at 170 degrees so that you're not going to have purge as you're printing. So again, at least until it comes up to layer 6 on this print. So if you do not do this manually, then you will have issues when you go to print. I know a lot of end users don't really look at that when printing with the method because they become used to cloud print on how it's set up, where naturally one extruder that's not printing is in idle mode, and therefore it's not going to extrude because the temperature is set so low. That is not the case with Simplify. So again, first layer is at 170. The sixth layer is when we're going to actually see the experimental extruder printing ABS over the raft. So coming over here now to Extruder 2X, you can see here we have that set at 225 all the way through, because the first layer naturally will be printing the raft, and then the component will be printed upon top of it. So after that's all set, you're basically good. The rest of the settings as far as output, I did adjust my Z-axis on a negative 0.02 millimeters, so very, very small, in conjunction with, once again, working with that first layer print height at 105%, so it works synergistically to give us a more bonding strength so that we're not going to have warpage. Of course, as far as my heated chamber, I have that set at stock temperature 100 degrees Celsius. So it is definitely heating that filament. And we're going to go from here. We'll go over to prepare to print. And you can see once again where those little holes are, and believe you me, this printer will print those little spots so that we can naturally use them marking where we're going to actually drill. There's your raft. Everything looks good. We're going to turn on live preview tracking, and we're all set.
Okay, we are at 1%, and you guys can see we are laying down a very nice raft. See if I can focus. See if my hand will help. Now again, I am running a 10% print layer speed, and you can see that, and we're getting a very, very nice first layer. Now guys, I highly recommend you go very slow when you're printing your first layer. You can get virtually any filament to stick naturally the slower we go. Let this finish up doing the raft, and then we'll continue. Okay guys, now we're at 14%, and we had a slight collision with our brim. And you can see what it did. It just shifted it on the opposite edge. And we really just got a slight little deflection off the build plate. Nothing really to be concerned about. Everything here looks good. If, however, something like that happens to you and it gets in the way, naturally just hit pause, cut a piece of it off carefully using your flush cutters, and continue. You can see what we've got here, and you see what I mean? It's just slightly off the build plate, and it happened when the nozzles went to do a wipe. Nothing is perfect, and of course, things always can happen. The main thing is the print, and it did not affect the raft at all, and the ABS is coming out beautiful. %20 now, and you can see I had to remove a tiny piece of that part of the brim that came up. Did it very carefully with the flush cutters so it wouldn't interfere with Extruder 2 or doing the print around the part. And you can see we have a beautiful part coming out here. Guys, one thing I want to point out, and something that's not really looked at, if you can master the art of hitting pause, and what I mean by that is using it in a way that you have all of your settings correctly set for your extruders in the sense of the temperature mainly, ooze settings. You could actually pause the print and save many prints if you ever have an issue. This is something I've never really seen discussed, but something to really think about. In this instance, that part of the brim that came off, it's very minor. Could have been a real catastrophe had I not, you know, paid attention to it. I think a lot of guys like to, you know, set it and forget it type of thing, and we're just, you really got to work really hard to get to that level, and if you put the time in, you'll certainly get there. This was one of those freak instances that just occurred, and something that we try to correct, and best of all, if we can get the print to keep going and still get a perfect print, more power to us. 43% now, and you can see we are making excellent progress. I really feel that 2,500 millimeters a minute print speed really is optimal. %, and now we can really see it taking form, guys. %90 now, and let's see if we can actually see this. You can see the 1/2 millimeter holes that it printed. See if I can angle this up just to give you an idea. And you can see how clean that is, guys. So I highly recommend, if you're doing a part that is more intricate and you're going to hand drill certain holes because you don't want to worry about fill, this is an easy way to do that, eliminating any secondary support extruder. And you can see those marks are very easy to match up with a 1/16 drill or, you know, a 3 millimeter drill, and you're set to go. You can start opening up the holes gradually and you'll have a perfect part. Okay guys, the print is done and we're going to take a peek at it. Okay, so you can see where the brim lifted up. Thank God it didn't interfere with the print. Like I said, as long as you master pausing the print and carefully snipping it, you're good if that ever happens to you. Okay, you can see what we've got here with the raft. Part looks great. And this is an area where I want you guys to look at. Those are 1/2 millimeter holes. And if we look into light, you can actually see through them. See if you can. That one you can definitely see through. Right there. Right there. So that just shows you how accurate this printer is. And you can see the raft removed like nothing. I didn't even need to dissolve this. Fan bracket came out great. Finish is excellent. Got a little texture on the bottom. Check the holes. Right through. Perfect. So now all I've got to do is drill these out and this will be perfect. But you can see with the ironing effect what you get, how smooth. I mean, it's amazing. And the part's like iron. So again guys, I hope that this video has been helpful. Keep the questions coming. I plan on doing some more. If it has been helpful, please leave a comment and like. Thank you for your support. Take care.